Hello everybody, Neil Fisher, third week Oski camper, your friendly neighborhood forester, providing you with a quick tour of the Lair of the Bear. Even though we're not here due to COVID, we're trying to show you as much as we can about camp. I am Western Resource Manager for Collins Pine Company. We manage 191,000 acres of timberland, and I'm responsible for that management along with sourcing the 2 sawmills that we own in Northern California and Southern Oregon. Give you some perspective, the camp, all 3 camps constitutes about 168 acres, so I'm responsible for 191,000 acres. That kind of gives you an idea of the scope of my job. So here we are in camp. This is Camp Oski, right near the Camp Oski stage. We're going to start at the top of the hill and work our way down to Blue with various spots and things to show you. You'll notice in the back behind me there's a lot of debris on the ground. There must have been a heck of a windstorm, probably about May, so we'll be seeing that through the course of all 3 camps. There's debris on the ground from that. Quick reminder for you all, the Lair of the Bear is smack dab in the middle of the Sierra Nevada, about 5,500 feet. Sierra Nevada starts at Lake Almanor, the southern end of Lake Almanor, runs all the way down to southeast of Fresno, southeast of Bakersfield actually, and we are pretty much smack in the middle of it from north to south. The stands here in the middle of the Sierra Nevada, at least here in camp, you have 4 out of the 5 Sierra mixed conifer species, so we're going to go over a quick identification of those trees, and then we'll show you stuff here in camp as we go down the hill, and you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like here on June 14th, 2020. Thanks. So here we are in Camp Oski, near the pool, and I want to cover the 4 conifer species that are here. So the camera right now, the tree that's centered in the camera right now is an incense cedar, and it has orange colored fibrous bark and juniper-like foliage. As we scan to the right a little bit, the ginormous tree in the background there, that one in the center of the camera now is ponderosa pine. It is a 3-needle pine. The pine ends look like cheerleader pom-poms, so remember pom-pom and ponderosa. Starts with P, makes it easy to remember. It has generally orangish colored bark as they get older. The stem now in the middle of the camera is sugar pine. Sugar pine has those ginormous cones on it, which you can see some of which are on there, and then the bark color is more purple in color. It is a 5-needle pine, so the needles occur in clusters of 5. The small tree in the foreground here is white fir. It is a species that's throughout camp. It is not a pine species, so to speak, but is a fir species. The needles on it kind of look like toothbrushes on the ends of those branches there. The tree in the background is also white fir. It's dead. So with this stop, I also wanted to address the tree mortality issue. Many of you remember 2016, there was a great deal of mortality in camp. 16-17 winter was wet, and then the 18-19 winter was wet, which seems to have subdued the mortality issue at the lower elevations. But at upper elevations, say above 5,500 feet maybe, we're starting to see the mortality show up in the fir species at the higher elevations. I have to tell you all, though, that the mortality crisis has settled down considerably. So there's your 4 species that occur in camp. Again, incense cedar on the left there, center, ponderosa pine. I'm moving the camera probably way too fast and making you all motion sick. But, and then sugar pine and white fir. Every tree needs a hug. So this is sugar pine, as I mentioned earlier in that short clip. And there is a 5th species that you may be wondering about called giant sequoia. Giant sequoia occurs in discrete groves from just south of Placerville all the way down to the redwood forest southeast of Visalia. They grow in those unique groves I mentioned earlier, but folks have planted them all over the place. There is one giant sequoia in the Lair of the Bear right near the Gold Manager's tent cabin. It has red fibrous bark similar to a cedar, but its leaves are more 3-dimensional rather than 2-dimensional and kind of prickly. There are also giant sequoia planted at the parking lots along the lake. So where we go for our picnics there at the Lair picnics at the lake, There's a giant sequoia right there behind the picnic area. So with that, we're going to proceed down to an historical and archaeological location that's right off the Oski Dining Hall. Okay, so here we are at the softball diamond. I want to give you a brief reminder of the insects that were attacking the pine over the last, since 2012 on, and did their damage and created the tree mortality crisis. The insects attack pine. They drill through the bark, they get underneath the bark and into the live tissue of the tree where they lay their eggs. Those eggs hatch, and the larvae then grow out and eat the live tissue between the bark and the dead tissue on the inside of the log. They eat all the way around the tree and eventually girdle it and kill it. If there's enough beetles, they will kill it. So these are the places, these are called pitch tubes. These are the places where the beetles have drilled into the tree, and the tree is responding by trying to flush it out with water and pitch. So you end up with these pitch coming out of the holes that the beetles have made, and they're called pitch tubes. And normally, when there's enough water, the tree can successfully scoot the bugs out from their live tissue and survive the attack. That's generally shown when the pitch coming out is yellow or light in color. But when there's red coming out in the pitch tubes, that means the bugs have already started to chew on the tree's live tissue, and it's coming out with the pitch in the form of red sawdust. So these are indications that the tree is being attacked by beetles, and that it's trying its darndest to pitch those bugs out and survive the attack, and we'll just have to wait and see if it makes it. This is a Jeffrey pine, by the way. I mentioned that there were 4 species in camp. Well, this is actually a 5th that occurs in camp. It's a close relative to ponderosa pine. They almost look exactly alike, but the way you can tell the difference as a Lair camper is to stick your nose right into the tree, and if it smells like butterscotch or vanilla, it's Jeffrey pine rather than ponderosa pine. The other way to distinguish it is that Jeffrey pine have very large cones, whereas ponderosa pine cones are going to be yay big instead.